Ever heard a tale where getting the boot actually kicks off something incredible? Today, you're diving headfirst into exactly that kind of story. Think quick wits, unexpected twists, and a royal bird that might just be ruffling more than a few feathers.
Precisely. We've got a fascinating excerpt here that plunges us into a kingdom teetering on a curious turn of events. At its core, it's about a king deeply attached to his bird, Moyna, and two individuals named Bidrup and Bankum, who find themselves in a rather, well, an unfortunate predicament.
Okay, so picture this. Bidrup and Bankum are facing a death sentence. I mean, talk about high stakes.
Right, yeah.
But instead of the expected end, our source reveals they're banished, sent packing to a remote, deep jungle miles away from civilization. As you can imagine, that's quite a change of scenery.
It is indeed. But what's immediately striking is their response to this apparent disaster. Instead of, succumbing to despair, their resourcefulness shines through. Bidrup, with his sharp wit, he kind of quips that a clever person can find opportunity anywhere, even if it's not exactly a comfortable family gathering, sort of hinting at finding their way even in the king's domain.
Right.
It tells you a lot about their character, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And Bankim adds this almost wry observation that their banishment feels like a step up, like to official work. It's that blend of humor in the face of adversity that really grabs you.
Yeah.
Even in this isolated forest, you get the sense their minds are already plotting their next move. Bidrup even confidently predicts that a solution will emerge.
And they quickly adapt. They essentially transform themselves into Gosains in the jungle. Now, for a bit of context, Gosains are basically holy men, right? Figures who often command a degree of respect and authority.
Okay, holy men. Got it.
What's also interesting to note is that the king's guards are still keeping watch, ensuring their isolation. So even in exile, they're not entirely forgotten.
Now picture this. 2 years have passed. The excerpt marks the second anniversary of Moyna's disappearance. You can almost feel the weight of the king's despair. His hope is fading.
Yeah, you really can.
And our source emphasizes that his last glimmer of hope rests on these two banished men. He even occasionally checks in on their progress. This really underscores how much this bird meant to him, doesn't it?
Totally. Then, out of nowhere comes this dramatic announcement. Your Majesty, it has become possible to give life to Moyna.
Wow.
Can you imagine the surge of emotion for the king? The text says he rushed out, overjoyed, and immediately ordered Bidrup and Bankum to be brought before him. You can almost feel the anticipation hanging in the air.
And they certainly know how to make an entrance. Bidrup and Bankum appear before the royal court and declare with confidence, Your Majesty, we have become capable of giving life to your Moyna.
Quite a turnaround, right, for two guys who were recently facing the ultimate punishment.
Exact.
Indeed. And then comes the moment we've all been waiting for. Moyna is brought out of a cage, but instead of a joyful reunion, the text points out Moyna's distinctly odd behavior. She doesn't fly to the king, doesn't even look in his direction. It's a complete lack of recognition.
Right, and the courtiers, ever ready with an explanation, they suggest that perhaps after so much time, she simply doesn't recognize him and will need time to readjust.
A convenient explanation, maybe?
Perhaps. The king seems to find some comfort in this, but the excerpt mentions an underlying feeling of emptiness. Even when he holds Moyna, there's this unsettling silence.
And what happens next is particularly telling. Moyna suddenly leaps from the king's hand.
Okay.
But instead of flying back to her cage, she doesn't really do much of anything specific. It's this moment that triggers a significant exchange between our banished duo.
Exactly. Bidrup and Bankum exchange a look, and the text reveals their internal doubt. Is this Moyna truly the king's? It's a pivotal moment for you, the listener, because it introduces this seed of suspicion.
Yeah, definitely. They clearly sense something isn't right, but without solid proof, they keep their concerns to themselves. For now, anyway.
Meanwhile, the king, perhaps blinded by his desire to have Moyna back, or maybe just relieved,
Yeah, probably just relieved.
announces permanent positions for Bidrup and Bankum in the royal court, promising them generous salaries. He's so thrilled by the apparent return of his beloved bird that he orders a kingdom-wide celebration.
A huge celebration. Drums, announcements to neighboring realms, a grand festival inviting everyone to partake in the joy. It's a massive display of public happiness.
But behind the celebratory atmosphere, Bidrup and Bankum have a private conversation, and it reveals a stark contrast to the king's elation.
Right. They observe the kingdom's people suffering from hunger, while this extravagant festival for a bird is being planned. It seems this ignites a new purpose in them.
A commitment to the well-being of the people, you mean?
Exactly, a commitment beyond just, keeping the king happy about his bird. Bidrup declares that they now have an important task
Mhm.
to ensure no one in the kingdom goes hungry.
That's a significant turning point, shifting their focus from their own survival to potentially a more noble cause.
Yes, absolutely. And then Bidrup's strategic mind kicks in once again.
Hmm.
He stresses the need to keep their actions in the jungle a secret,
Mm-hmm.
specifically mentioning that no one should discover they simply brought this Moyna from the deep forest, implying it might not be the original bird.
And Bankum simply agrees, Lolandat. Okay. So you see, we're left with this intriguing scenario, their secret, and this newfound dedication to the kingdom, kind of moving beyond the king's prized possession.
So to bring it all together for you, we've witnessed Bidrup and Bankum's unexpected journey, from facing death to becoming influential figures, all tied to the seemingly miraculous return of the king's Moyna.
Yet that nagging question remains, doesn't it? There's a palpable sense of unease surrounding Moyna's strange behavior.
Definitely, it just doesn't quite add up.
And that's where you, the listener, come in. What do you make of Moyna's reaction? Was it just the passage of time, like the courtiers suggested, or did Bidrup and Bankum pull off a clever switch?
It's a classic aha moment setup, isn't it? This story really makes you think about how things aren't always as they appear on the surface.
Right. It prompts us to consider the hidden layers beneath seemingly straightforward events. What's really going on here?
This excerpt concludes with Bidrup and Bankum embarking on this new mission to aid the kingdom, spurred by their awareness of the people's plight. It leaves us contemplating the ingenuity of these two men,
Uh-huh.
the potential deception they might be involved in, and the unfolding ramifications of their actions. What will their next steps be, and how might the truth about Moyna eventually surface? Lots to think about.
Indeed. It leaves you wondering about their resourcefulness and, well, what happens next in the kingdom?